afraid. I say I'm living on the fringe.
So next up is the amazing Turiya Autry. She's doing a piece called Poetic License. Turiya is an author, she's a teaching artist, professor, radio host, and mask maker. That's been very lucrative, and more. Turiya's message is one that delivers on its promise of educating, motivating, and inspiring a wide audience. She's been doing this for decades, and her work incorporates the arts, pop culture, and history with personal, community, and political struggles. So, without further ado, Turiya Autry and Poetic Justice. Is she there? Oh, there she is. Okay.
Yeah, here she is.
There you go, Turiya.
Hi, Turiya.
Oh, okay. I just gave you this fabulous intro.
Hi.
You're all set to go.
Yeah. Welcome to High Desert Fringe.
Hi, it's great to be here. I'm actually live right now, this moment.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Yes,
I'm looking forward to sharing some poetry with our audience that is tuned in, whatever time it is in your locale. It's another beautiful sunny day here in the desert in 29 Palms. And poetry that I'll be sharing with you today is from a few places. My recently released chapbook called Poetic License. Also, my earlier paperback, Roots, Reality, and Rhyme. Both are available on my website. Please feel free to support the many talented independent artists that are part of this festival today. Haggard's tears and winged horse footsteps draw fountains forth from outcast histories, buried in battles and bodies born of mothers' spilled blood. Inspiration resurrects herself fierce in lightning and thunder. Some learn to fly. Because sometimes parents are detained and otherwise absent, and the overworked and underpaid rarely rest, we are unable to rectify acts unjustified and materialized in the form of our present lives. Meanwhile, our children attempt to grow free, and we have no Garden of Eden to offer them our backgrounds stunted by pesticides, manufactured lies, and homicide. City streets causing us to travel twice as far, twice as fast. We live at odds with the atmospheric pressures, begging folks to just slow down. We cast seeds on the run, hoping something nourishing will come. Chaos races unaligned. His energy gains momentum, yet seems to never topple with the weight of itself. Unobstructed, he gathers us into his arms and welcomes us. That piece is called Chaos, which I think is very relevant to this interesting time that we are in currently. This piece is called Rwanda, Part 1, Kabuye. When Abel fell at the hands of Cain and spilled blood stained the ground, did they know they were in paradise? When the birds share songs lending melody to their surroundings, is their sound the telling of the way the world went mad? Perhaps the release of joy that those times are over. Do the buried find peace with skeletons dismembered, lives disrupted with strokes of a blade since bullets were considered too expensive? When those in need who sought salvation at a church found the house of God had become their tomb, was there redemption for those who wielded the machete? Do Adam and Eve weep again as history repeats itself? How do we reconcile that Eden and hell are neighbors, separated by a chain link fence and barbed wire? Unmarked mass graves in a courtyard, sharing both sides in indecision. Is evil also a fallen seed that takes root with barbed spikes, laying claim on man and earth to harvest discontent. We, haphazard gardeners, consume whole and husk, choke on the yield, emaciated and forever hungry. Despair masks itself as sustenance. Hope lies in the hands of children asking me for Rwandan francs. But my meager offerings cannot return their families. This piece is called Black by definition. The mirror held her captive. She searched from the deep, dark coils that framed her face to the blemish that was making its way to the surface of her chin. Left profile, right profile. She shook her head in disbelief. Could it be true? Delicate fingers forced the medicine cabinet open for umber eyes to inspect. There was no trick or perverse optical illusion distorting her reflection. The mirror was genuine. This realization brought her crashing at the doorstep of a major dilemma. If she was Black, as her reflection bore witness to, what did that mean? She didn't need a dictionary to define Black. The world screamed out in immeasurable decibels the negativity of such a color, Black, the color of death and destruction. Plagues labeled Black, evildoers wore Black, Black. The imminent force making people afraid of closets and spaces under bed, hostile, cruel. The impending doom before an explosion, a menace corrupting the country, the color of curses and the damned. No amount of ivory, soap, and elbow grease could remove the stain covering her body. She descended into a dark depression. Overcast emotions found her lost in a night without moon or stars, treading on soot amidst an ominous backdrop of despair. A land of evil intentions surrounded her. There was no hope here, only darkness. But somewhere in the distance, she saw a light and she moved towards it. Blinding white enveloped her, glistening. Snow danced in the air around her. Ice castles reached towards marshmallow clouds. Sweet taste of sugar crystals filled her mouth. Doves alighted upon her shoulders, cooing the perfection of such a peaceful place. Rosy-cheeked, blue-eyed angels radiated purity and love. They sang of innocence and goodwill. Could this be heaven? Could this last? The gleam of whiteness faltered, transforming as lightning flashes split open the sky. White sails, blowing in the winds of colonialism, came rushing towards her. She saw the white of sharks' teeth following behind to devour the countless bodies thrown overboard in Atlantic crossings. Long white rows of nameless tombstones marking the graves of the conquered, fields of white cotton tinged with the blood of weary hands, men hiding behind white hoods during night rides. White, the color of a burning cross and a false god. White, the lies told by politicians before elections. White, the color of surrender. Then came another set of images, a myriad of color. Gold pyramids rose to meet the sun. Peacock blues and cadmium reds adorned great pillars covered in picturesque writings. Brilliance permeated a vibrant place and peopled, varied as the fauna surrounding the great Oka River coursing its way through this motherland. A people of regal blood, embodying beauty, power, and wisdom, greeted her with smiling eyes. She saw different shades of black. Black like the wheels of time forever moving forward. Black of ships' hulls survived. Black of railroad tracks forged by hand. Crude oil fueling society with life's blood. Black asphalt well-trodden that maintains its composure. Black soil feeding deepest roots of ancient trees, shimmering black. Sleek panthers stalking the jungle wild. The black of a universe unknown and ocean depths untapped. Black musical notes scrawled on paper, singing melodies of sweet sadness. Black of closed eyelids. Colors of percolating dreams not yet begun in sleep's passing. Black fluid in an inkwell full of stories yet untold. These images filled her thoughts as she became aware of a familiar countenance reflecting in her direction. She glimpsed her face in the mirror, and for the first time, she smiled at her own image. What's that you say? You say Sally at school said you look like a what? Like a werewolf? Well, Sally clearly ain't got no sense. She said it was your hair that made you look like a werewolf. So now you don't like your hair anymore, and you wanna cut it off or straighten it. Look, all that pretty hair of yours, you don't even need all that hair. You should actually let me have some of that. I mean, just, all I need are some scissors and a little bit of glue. I could fix that up on my head. Ooh, girl, give my wigs a break. That hair is something else. Don't listen to those children at school. Don't say that you hate your hair. Don't say that. Look, we can't change who we are. Sugar, you ain't the first to feel that way, and unfortunate, you ain't gonna be the last. Look, after 400 years without a comb and all this oppression, girl, we've all been underestimating our inner goddess. Even I denied my connection to the roots of nappiness and happiness, striving for a relaxed state in the midst of self-hate. See, we've all struggled to be something else or wish that we were someone else, but them curls right there, they are an extension from your thoughts, through and beyond the spirals of this galaxy, sweetheart. I am telling you, this universe holds more for me and we than this. Suffering, hunger, misdistribution of wealth, they force survival to equal distance from the earth. Gunfire, drugs, prisons, wars, people out here trying to live drive-through lifestyles, like life is a convenience store. These out here, they decimated our communities. They still force feed dependency. And yes, I may be yet another generation of borrowing against my life while the debts owed from their blood-soaked hands go unpaid. But baby girl, we have never forgotten hysterical screams of kidnapped, vicious blows, crippling backs, mothers stolen from babies, folks tied to train tracks, then beaten for struggling, burning flesh and broken bones, nails through hands and crowns of thorns. We carry the weight and the pain of the earth, but we can save it. And you know what? Those spirals on your head, they serve as antennas picking up signals from the sun. In hundreds of years, they may mark empires, but they are nothing but a ripple in this vast ocean of God's time. So this life's time, it's not the beginning. It's not the end. It's just brief time passing, and sometimes people are gonna be unkind, but baby girl, my love for you is cosmically unending and eternally limitless. So you, my dear, are supplied with love in abundance. So you don't have to worry about none of these knuckleheads with your grandma here. And you, my sweet, beautiful, and only great grandbaby, you are more than this. That piece was called Resurrecting Beauty. And when I did my one-woman show, I actually personified my great-grandmother. Now, while my great-grandmother was living, I called her Grandma, Grandma Baby. She did not let me refer to her as great-grandmother because that would reveal another generation of her lifespan that she wasn't ready to acknowledge. But I love doing that piece in her voice, whether or not those were exact words that she said to me. The fact is that she was a huge, huge impact on my life by caring for me during the summers, and also as inspiration by being an early artist that I spent a great amount of time with. While I'm giving some shouts out to elders, I want to do this piece, which is about my grandfather. It's called Grandpa Trickster. My grandpa taught me how to play dominoes, and dominoes is a very serious thing. I mean, you can do it for fun, but that's not really how dominoes works. So he taught me how to play dominoes. I was like his road buddy. I traveled with him everywhere. I went with him when he hung out with the guys and played poker. He was a huge influence also on my life. And it was really a special time to be able to learn so much from my elders as I was growing up. I did beat him at dominoes. We played 3 games when I was a young teenager, 3 games to 150 points. So 150 is 1 game. And I beat him 3 times in a row. And we didn't play dominoes for a really long time. But this piece is about my grandpa. After weeks of counting in increments of 5 while sitting at the table of the sun, his earthly granddaughter beat him at dominoes when she was only 13. So he hurled all 28 bones into the sky where they still shine on clear nights. He worked the rails while on land to blend in with those considered common, knowing full well that saints often beg on street corners to test for purity of heart, and atonement and benediction are found in juke joints as often as in churches, where true believers drink spirits and holy water from the same glass. He diagnosed grief in his surroundings and used humor as a panacea, curing pain with laughter when medicines refused to mend wounds fully, prescribing black magic remedies deep fried and seasoned with hot sauce. He captured hornet stings and barbs in the thick skins of his souls, freed them with razor blades, hurtling them at unsuspecting mortals that underestimated the sharpness of speaking tongues. Sometimes words are the only weapons available to gods on earth. Resurrecting love. How do you explain to a lover the empty spaces, the sense of abandonment that never departs, a gaping hole like an excavated grave? I stare at the open cavity facing the chasm that calls me home. How do we live in the midst of so much loss? I know it must be through love. But buried under decades of neglect, my heart might crumble and become ash in your hands. Speaking of hearts, this piece is called Muscle Memory. And I wrote it about heartbreak. But heartbreak happens for a lot of reasons, not just love and relationships. I think there are a lot of ways in which people are feeling heartbroken as they look out into the world. It's reminding us of previous wounds. So something to consider in listening to this piece. Muscle memory. And maybe you're always broken. So you get the glue, the stitches, the x-ray, the cast, the physical therapy, make the lifestyle changes and you feel healed. But somewhere under all that is still the fracture, the points of weakness, the susceptible places that will always be prone to re-injury. So you move through the world fragile, like the slightest shock will shatter you. And maybe this time the surgery, the open wounds won't take to recovery since the symptoms are now immune to the antibiotics because you've been treating the wound so long already. And you can't amputate your heart. Remove it from its cavity, place it on ice to be reattached later like a dismembered digit. You can't cut it out for being the root of an infection that seems to only make you weaker as time goes on. There are no braces to strengthen the heart's position. So it will stop falling over and over again, as if heights aren't dangerous to leap from in this world of jagged edges and cold, hard ground. But you learn to love again. But after a history of hurt and failure, why would this time be different? When the grooves in the well-trodden path are visible, even in the dark on this circular journey that inevitably leads to loss. People draw symmetrical hearts, paint them pink and purple with flowers, rainbows, unicorns, and carved initials. But have you ever seen an actual heart? We dissected one in a bovine one in high school anatomy class. It wasn't pretty. A lumpy organ with calcified edges, difficult to cut through, aorta and vena cava at each end, ventricles and valves wrapped in muscle. Like it knew it had to be tough to keep beating in the face of everything else. But nothing like a Valentine's Day card. An unfitting container to attempt to store love in the first place. Like it could just filter out the impurities, excrete them forward like foreign substances unfit to be housed there or in the human anatomy at all. I thought if I unloaded the weight of my burdens, changed my diet of disaster, it would create space, an opening, a clear artery for love to enter through, and I would be fit enough to recover. But the hemorrhaging happened anyway, when love proved to be too much to squeeze back into an 8-ounce organ. I wish I had done the math before I saw it open my chest, cracked apart my ribs, and attempted to make it fit. I should have studied the failure rates of open heart surgery instead of hoping for a miracle. I wasn't squeamish of blood. I had a high threshold for pain. I knew how to cut with precision like angry tongues, sharp as razors. I even knew how to suture myself back together. But actual mending, how do you learn to heal when the muscle memory only recalls the damage? Not the healthy times that date so far back, like childhood remembrances of being licked by the sandpaper tongue of a kitten for the first time, back when you hadn't healed yet because it was before being broken. And the points of damage are the strongest flashbacks, and the healthy tissue is a minuscule remainder, a blurred recollection of a beginning you don't know how to return to. Muscle memory. This next piece is called In Search of Osiris. 4 directions I traversed, looking for each fragment of my love, maimed and misplaced across the land we ruled. Are you hearing everything okay? I hope so.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, It just gave me an alert, and I was like, oh no. 4 directions I traversed, looking for each fragment of my love, maimed and misplaced across the land we rule. His smile, that slice the dark sky with light. My tears, creating chasms, dividing nations. His arms spread too wide to take hold. My hands, torn from carrying the weight of severed pieces, found throughout the shadows of hate, darkening each road I searched. How fast did Set run with his body, casting it to the sands of deserts, wet soil of marshes, as if my brother could ever be forgotten when gods do not die. Flesh torn asunder, I gather each limb, cradle them against my body, protecting memories, praying the sum, 13 parts, is enough. As I, the unskilled surgeon, attempt to resurrect the dead with bare hands and the magic they hold. It is our love, stronger than death itself, that makes us whole. And I want to close with this piece. And while I haven't said anything directly around the current circumstances, it's definitely been heavy on my spirit. I thought about writing a poem to address some of the things going on. And then it occurred to me that 20 years ago, I wrote a poem about state-sanctioned violence against Black bodies when Amadou Diallo was shot at 41 times and hit 19 times. I started writing a piece today, and I realized that so many of the pieces I have speak to the power, the beauty of Blackness, Black culture, and who we are, and the things that we have faced. But I do want to encourage everyone to remember that if we aren't valuing Black lives, then we're not valuing humanity. We can change the future, but not if we don't understand our history. This poem is called Fighting the Tide. Grains of sand grow lost with each wave before settling back into each other, brief as the space in time between butterfly wings opening and closing, every moment fleeting. Out of place like petals washed on land, worn and still beautiful, we find the same shore. Footprints fading with the wind, walk on water before taking flight. Count the distance to the horizon measured in memories, faded landmarks, the eternal wear of fog and salt tides. Take my hand like an anchor against the inevitable constancy of change. Lie with me beneath the fickle sun that too must set. Gather this awareness before being compelled by the ebb. Build bridges from one to another so we can easily return when once again we are washed away. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in to this fabulous edition of the High Desert Fringe Festival. Again, my name is Turiya Autry, and my website is my name, turiyaAutry.com. And you are welcome to support a local artist. I have my book, Roots, Reality, and Rhyme, is available online, as well as my chapbook, Poetic License. And I appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to Mary and Anne for hosting this and putting the work in to make this happen for all of us. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Turiya.
Thank you, Turiya. You're on.
Thank you.
As always. Yeah, thank you so much for everything. I'm just going to say it's been a pleasure working with you over the last few years, and I know things are changing, but I just want to say thank you so much for your presence in the theater community here in the high desert and whatever happens next.
Well, thank you for all the great things that you make happen for the community, both of you. I just have so much love and appreciation for you too. And you've made my time in the desert, it's been the icing on the cake. So thanks for being the fabulous icing on the cake.
Oh, thanks. And I'm still looking forward to calling you Dr. Autry.
Give me several years.
Can you remind us what are you studying for your PhD in?
So I'm applying for programs, but my goal is to go into communications as my PhD program.
Oh, wow.
Media, culture, gender, and performance, which are all things that I've been into for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great. All right. Thank you so much, Turiya.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye to you and to everyone watching.
Bye.
You say I'm living on the freight. I say I'm living on